a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So I guess I have another ghost story since everybody's liking them so much. Start off, I am no stranger to spirit ghosts, seeing things, whatever you want to call them. So this particular story, it just relates to my grandmother. We were at my aunt's house. Now, backstory, my aunt now lives over my grandfather, which is my grandmother's husband. After she passed, we moved him into an apartment, and my aunt stays over him, which is above him. So my grandfather doesn't like a lot of noise, doesn't like a lot of bumping, and anybody that stayed in the apartment knows what it sounds like when people are doing too much above you. So my grandfather doesn't like that, so every so often, and it was if my aunt was there, he would kind of hit his cane on the top of the ceiling and bump us and let us know, hey, be quiet. So that was our cue, and we know that, hey, we making too much noise, we need to be quiet. So, but when my aunt was not home, he wouldn't do that. So my aunt left. It was me and my cousin. We were all having fun, we turned the music up. We had our own little semi-party inside of the house with just us, okay? So it's maybe 9, it's nighttime because my aunt, she's gone out with her friends. So we're having fun. We got the music loud, and all of a sudden, and at this time I'm still communicating. Me and my grandmother is still communicating. We're talking. We're, have our own little thing going on. So if you're confused, go back and watch my last videos. Then you'll kind of know. But this particular day, we were partying, kicking it, had the music up, had our own little party going on with just us, and the doorbell rings. So when the doorbell rings, we think nothing of it. We stop, we turn the music down, and we go and answer it. Now, when we get to the door, open the door wide, there's nobody there. You have to walk 2 apartments down before you get to the stairs to go down stairs of the apartment, So there's nobody there. And we stay at the apartment on the end, so you can't walk to the right. You can only walk to the left. So imagine this. So we see nobody downstairs, think nothing of it. Close the door. Now, the first time it happened, close the door. Not paying no attention. Turn our music back up. We continue what we were doing. Maybe after 5 minutes of listening to the music, ding dong, the doorbell rings again. So we're like, okay, turn the music down. Every time the doorbell rings, keep in mind, we turn the music off. Okay, so doorbell rings, second time, we turn the music down, we turn it off, and we go to the door, open the door. Now, granted, as kids, we are not knowing what we know now as adults. Adults, doorbell ring, you're going to look through the door. If nobody's there, you're not going to open the door. Think none of it. So we're opening the door. Nobody's out there. Can't see anybody. Nobody's walking down the steps. Just like the doorbell just rung out of nowhere. So this is the second time. I'm big on 3 strikes. Okay, So this is the second time, okay? So now I am on alert. My antennas are standing up, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Okay, my cousin, she's going on about her business like nobody's at the door. Me, because I'm so into this world that I'm in, and I have so much going on in my personal world that people don't know, and they think that it's rude. I mean, not rude. They think that it's weird. So second doorbell, I'm on alert. I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is going on? So we turn the music back up. We start back partying, but I am on alert. Like, I am looking around. I am actually waiting on this doorbell to ring again. So, lo and behold, the doorbell rings again. And this time, I'm standing right at the door because I'm on alert. My cousin turns the music down. I swing the door open. I'm like, what is going on? And nobody's there. Nobody is there. Pitch black dark. Nobody rung the door. So at this moment, I'm like, fuck the music. We're not turning the music back on. We are not we just gonna sit here. We're gonna have like a woosah coming to Jesus moment. Let's sit down in a circle. Let's communicate. Let's figure out what is going on. Why this doorbell keep ringing? Am I the only one? Like, what is? It's not normal. So I don't turn the music back up. The night is over. Our party is over. Okay, we're done for. We're gonna watch TV. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna have a self-evaluation. Is what we're gonna do for the rest of the night because we don't know what's going on. When my aunt comes home, we let her know what went on, what's going on, and it took her to make me realize that was my grandmother because every time we rang the doorbell, we would turn the music off. So as long as we didn't have the music up loud, interrupting her husband because it's 9 and 10 o'clock at night and he's trying to get some sleep. But of course, he's not going to bam his cane up there because when my aunt's not at home, he's like, those kids are not going to listen to anybody. They're going to keep making noise. So he would just ignore it. So my grandmother was like, my man is trying to sleep. Turn this down and turn it down now. Needless to say, she did not play about him in life or afterlife. Okay, so we did not turn the music back on. Our party was over. We waited on our aunt to come home to then let us know what really happened. But that's another one of my ghost stories. If you want to hear more, just let me know. If you have some ghost stories, send them to me, and I don't mind telling them.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go.
So I have a little story. This was a few years ago, I would say before COVID, maybe like 2018, 2019. I wanted to get a little vanity mirror because I've been seeing them all over social media, and also I wanted to improve better on my makeup. So I needed a little mirror so I could really look into the details. So this one day, me, my dad, and my sister, we went out to the flea market or the swap meet in my local area. And I came across this old lady who was selling like really vintage stuff. And I saw that she had a little pink vanity mirror. And it had like those little lights on the side. So I thought it was perfect. I was like, wow, like this is so cute. I really would like to buy it. The lady says, oh yeah, that's such a great option. But just so you know, it is built from the 1950s. That's where I should have like booked it, you know? But instead, I purchased it and I took it home with me. I show my dad the mirror and I'm like, oh, dad, like, isn't this mirror so cute? And he tells me, yeah, it is really cute. Let's just hope it's not haunted. Um, Warning sign number 2. Maybe I should have never purchased it. But it was already too late. I already handed the lady the money. We were already on our way home. It was fine. Whatever happened, happened. I was really hoping it wasn't haunted, but boy, was I proven wrong. So once we got home, everyone settled down, dropping off all their bags. I went into my room and I started to redecorate my closet. But before I did that, I put on music. So I had this little tiny speaker. I don't have it anymore because it broke down. But I had this little speaker and I put it in my closet. My closet is on the other side of the room, over here. And this is the exit door. So as I was like going on about my day, I started to move a couple things around my room. And then at some point, my dad and my sister, they came over to like ask me a few questions about, I don't know what it was, but it was just a small conversation. And both of them leave. They leave into the kitchen and they start talking. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and hang out with them for a little bit, just give myself a little bit of break from all this cleaning. So I start to exit out of my room, right? All of a sudden, I hear this loud crash. And I was like, okay, I was the last one here. Let me go ahead and check what fell. Because at first I thought maybe some of the things that I moved around fell. I was specifically looking at this one umbrella that I had, but it was standing right up. It was still where I left it. So I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting because everything else is like they're in boxes and stuff. Like they wouldn't fall. So I couldn't find anything. I was really confused. So I started to leave my room again. But before I could officially like exit the door, I noticed that the music sounded different. It sounded muffled. So I look around. All of a sudden, I see the speaker in the center towards the exit of the room. And I'm like using physics, using science, trying to find an explanation as to how the fuck the speaker from the other side of the room went all the way to the other side of the room when nobody touched it. So I was really confused. I was really concerned. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, no way. So I go over to my dad and I'm like, Dad, like, I played this music on the speaker. All of a sudden it's on the floor, but like in the center of the room. I don't know what happened. I didn't touch it. Nothing happened. Like, there wasn't even like an earthquake or anything to make it fall, especially that far. So I was really confused. And my dad was also kind of confused because he's like, what? Like, how did that happen? But he also asked me, he's like, are you sure you didn't do anything? You didn't touch it? You didn't like throw something? Like, nothing? And I was like, no, nothing. I was literally exiting the room. I don't understand why that happened. So my dad, he was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I was kind of spooked because I was the last one in the room when that happened. So I asked my little sister, I was like, hey, like, can you stay with me as I organize my closet? And he's like, yeah, sure thing. So my little sister is helping me out on the side. I put the speaker back. My dad, he's actually helping me hang up this mirror, this other mirror that we had, but we've had it for a really long time. Nothing spooky ever happened with that mirror. He hangs it up on the wall and he even like tugs it, he balances it out, he makes sure that it's secure, right? That it's in place. My dad starts to leave. Me and my sister, our backs are turned away from my dad and the mirror that he just put up. So all of a sudden, again, we hear this loud crash. The mirror that he just secured fell off on top of the table where I had my makeup and everything, all the way down to the floor. So it was a huge, huge crash that I jumped up and I screamed. My sister immediately turned around. My dad came rushing in and we all just stare at that. And we're like, what the fuck? So we all stare at it and we're like, what? My dad, he asked me and my sister, did you guys get near it? No. Did you guys throw something? No. Did you guys do anything? No. Me and my sister were standing where we were standing and we didn't move because we were scared. My dad was kind of annoyed at this point, but not at us, but just at the weird things that are happening, because before this incident, nothing happened like this before. So we start to clean up the table, we start to clean up the things that fell, and we noticed the vanity mirror was there. My dad says, you know what? Ever since we got that mirror, weird stuff started happening. And I told him, you know what, Dad? You are absolutely right. So we had to get rid of it because it was too much energy that caused physical things to move. And the crazy thing is that before we got the mirror, nothing happened. So the minute we got rid of it, everything stopped. And ever since then, nothing like that has ever occurred in my house, which I'm really grateful for, but scared as fuck.
I've literally watched all the stitches to this video, but this story that I'm about to tell today, even though it happened years ago, still gives me chills, and I feel like it has a lot to do with why I quit my job. So I used to work in long-term care, for those of you that don't know, pretty much a nursing home. I was a certified nursing assistant out of high school. This was my first big girl job, okay? So when I first started, I didn't know a lot about the different types of shifts, but there's pretty much 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. I worked the 7 to 3, which was 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As time went on, I slowly started to transition to 3 to 11 to work around my college courses. But every now and then I would pick up an 11 to 7 shift. It didn't take long before I started working there where people were telling me about this one particular resident that had an issue with people of a certain color coming into his room. I didn't have too much interaction with this resident because, like I said, I only worked 7 to 3, and you didn't have to do a lot for him. Just go in and check on him and make sure he was okay. Bring him his food tray. Every now and then he might ask you for help to go to the bathroom, but that was about it. I had heard that this resident could get kind of nasty sometimes. I also heard that he had dementia, so he was like seeing stuff. And I also remember going in his room a couple times and seeing all of the mirrors in his room covered up. This is gonna come back later. So on my first 11 to 7, we'll call this nurse Patty. Patty pulled me aside and she was like, hey, this is the list of people pretty much doing the report for when I first, clocked in, starting my shift. She told me who I had, who was total assist, which I had to do everything for, and who I could pretty much, let. So I noticed that this list had this certain patient's number on it, this certain resident's number on it. His room number was on there. But instead of it saying, just limited assistance or whatever, it was like total assist. So I asked, I'm like, I know I have him during the day and I just go in and check on him and make sure he's okay. If he rings the call light, I'll go in. But other than that, that's about it. When did he become a total assist? So she proceeds to tell me that the night before, he got so scared and so frantic and thought something was in his room that he jumped out of his bed and fell on the floor and did something to his hip. So at this point, currently, he's a total assist, meaning I have to go in, I have to check on him, I have to do everything for him. I say, cool, no problem. I start doing my rounds, I start checking on my people, passing out ice water, changing people, as I normally do. Literally, not even 15 minutes into my shift, his call light is on. I go in, I make sure everything's okay. As soon as I get in, I kid you not, this man is literally in the fetal position. I walk up to him and I ask him if everything's okay. Obviously, when I walk up to him, I'm very careful because like I stated before, he did not like people of my color coming into his room. During the day, he would make a big deal out of this. Like if he could get a nurse or a nursing assistant of a different color, he definitely would. He did not pay that any mind. He literally jumped straight into, they're in here, they're after me, please help me. I'm looking like, who is they? He's like, you don't see that little boy behind you? No, I can't say that I do, sir. So it took me literally 15 minutes, and by the grace of God, I was able to calm this man down. We're going to call him Mr. Johnson. After I calmed Mr. Johnson down, I left out of the room, and I went and did my rounds like usual. Literally, not even 10 minutes later, he's back on the call light. I said, okay, maybe he's got to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. So I went in, checked. This time when I went in the room, I noticed that the room was extremely cold. Extremely cold. When I went in there earlier, it was not cold like that. Now, the nursing home, that nursing home in particular was a little colder on the graveyard shift. But when I tell you it was cold to the point where I could see my breath cold. At this point, not only is he in the fetal position, but he is also under the covers and he is also crying. So I walk up to him. I lift the cover up. I look under the cover. Again, he's sitting under there. We make immediate eye contact and he's like, help me, please help me. So I'm trying to calm him down because whatever he's seeing, I'm just not seeing it. So I'm like, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to need for you to cooperate with me. I'm going to need for you to tell me what's going on so I can better assist you and we can get through this shift together. At this point, I'm doing what I've been taught to do for somebody that's going through a dementia or Alzheimer's crisis, which is what I was told that he had. He calms down a little bit and he literally just starts talking. And when I tell you this got crazy quick, it got crazy quick. So he's telling me that when he was younger, about in his 20s or 30s, he was married to a young woman. We're going to call her Maggie. Him and Maggie had just bought a farm. It was literally just him and Maggie. And before you knew it, Maggie got pregnant. Back then, it literally wasn't uncommon to have people of color hired as help to help you on the farm, to help you raise kids, whatever the case may be. This was post-slavery, but people was very much still feeling entitled to doing whatever they wanted to do to people of color. So that's the time frame we in. He tells me that months go down the line, whatever. He goes and he wakes up early one morning. He sees that his wife is a little uncomfortable. She tells him like maybe the baby's coming or whatever. He doesn't think nothing of it. He goes out, get on his tractor, and he does his farmer work. He has a farmhand named Tommy. Tommy is a black man, okay? Around lunch, he's guessing is when his wife went into labor while he was still out in the field. His wife called her mother-in-law, which was Mr. Johnson's mom, her sister-in-law, and his brothers came as well. Everybody's making sure that everything's going okay. The baby is finally born at some point. When the baby is born, I guess everybody in the room looked around at each other and realized that this baby was not in no way, shape, or form white. The brothers immediately take the baby and they go outside. His mom sits there with her and they go. They snatch this baby and they take the baby outside. Meanwhile, all this is going on. Him and Tommy are still out in the field. They took this baby out into a body of water. And I will not be saying what they did to this baby, but you can only imagine for the time period. Him and Tommy finally wrap up their work for the day and he heads back to the house. When he gets inside the house, he sees his wife sitting there with his mother. His wife is crying. His mom's just sitting there irritated and pissed off. He asks what's going on, and that's when she gives him the whole rundown that your wife was pretty much sleeping with your field hand, and this is the situation that you're in. So he asks, where's the baby? And the mom says, your brother's taking care of it. Don't worry about it. You need to figure out what you're going to do with her. Meanwhile, this is going on. His brothers have went and got Tommy out of the field. The things that they did to Tommy, again, I cannot describe it here on TikTok, but just imagine the torture and everything that he went through. They literally just left him there in that field. They left him there in the middle of the field. This man proceeds to tell me that when he finally figures out what happened and what his brothers did, they literally acted like nothing ever happened. And every night, Tommy and his son will come and visit him like clockwork. At this point, when I tell you the chills are running up my spine, literally every hair on my body is sticking up. I don't know what to say. I'm like, when they say frozen in fear, I was frozen in fear. Because it's like, as soon as he told me that story, I could pick up on what was in the room. Before, I couldn't pick up on what it was, but I could immediately feel something else in the room with us. After he told me the story, I finally got him to calm down and he went to sleep. He slept for literally a couple hours, and at this point, we're at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like clockwork, he hits that call light again. I go back in. I remember walking into the room and all of the sheets were taken off of the mirrors, which I thought was very strange because he wanted his mirrors covered up for a reason. I went over to Mr. Johnson and I touched him to make sure that he was okay, and this man was ice cold. He had died. As I went to leave the room to go contact a nurse, oh my God, I'm getting chills. I'm literally passing by this mirror, and as I'm headed out, on my left is the mirror. I turn and look in the mirror, and behind me, to the far wall of Mr. Johnson's room, I see a taller figure, and I see a shorter figure standing beside this taller figure that I would say is probably about the height of a 5-year-old child. I have never seen nothing like that in my life, ever. And I cannot explain the amount of fear that ran through my body, but I got out of that room so quick, I will tell you that. The crazy part is that when the nurse came in, we could not understand how these mirrors got uncovered. Even the one in the bathroom was uncovered. The one in his room was uncovered. Again, this is a man that just hurt his hip yesterday. There's no reason why he should have been out of bed taking these blankets off this mirror, and I know he wouldn't have done it anyway. Also, the fact that she felt like he had been dead for longer than I said he had. But again, I had just talked to Mr. Johnson. I had literally just talked to him. So I don't understand how a dead man talks, but maybe y'all can let me know. And when I tell you, baby, I only lasted 3 more days after that. I didn't sleep for days. I said, I'm not coming back. Y'all ain't gotta work. Hey, when you see me on your For You page, you already know what it is. I got another story. So this one takes place after COVID, like 2020, 2021. It's got to be 2020 because I hadn't had my daughter yet. But again, working for the CNA agency that I talked about working for before, they had sent me to this new facility that I had never been to. This night I was doing 3 to 11. I had learned my lesson about that 11 to 7, baby. I learned to leave that where that's at. But I get there at 3, I'm doing my rounds, I'm taking care of everybody like I'm supposed to be taking care of them. I'm getting ready for dinner. I think dinner was around 6. And then pretty much after 6, they told me that the shift was pretty much easy after that because everybody went to bed and they would sleep. What I didn't know about this facility is actually it was a 2-story facility. So they had like a 1st floor and a 2nd floor. This was something coming from a small town. I did not know they had no 2-floor nursing home facilities. So since I had patients at the end of the 1st hall, I also had patients upstairs because you just had like 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 16 and 17 or whatever was upstairs. So I had to go upstairs. Good thing was that they did have elevators, so I didn't have to walk up and down the stairs pregnant or nothing like that. So I go upstairs to meet my resident. It's this sweet older man. We talk for a little bit. Everything's good. I told him if he needs anything, hit his call light, and I would be right upstairs to check on him and make sure that he's okay. He told me that he was fine, to turn off the lights, and he was going to go to bed. This resident was in like room 7. That means that the room in the floor under him would have been like room 14 or something like that. This resident was a woman, and I went in to check on her and make sure she was okay too. She said she was fine, but the only complaint that she had was that it sounded like somebody was scratching on her ceiling. So immediately I'm like, okay, if somebody's scratching on your ceiling, that means they're scratching on the resident upstairs. Something has to be scratching on his floor. So I go upstairs to make sure he's okay and he's not out of bed or anything, because I just talked to him and he said he was going to sleep. I cut the lights off. He hasn't hit a call light or anything. I go in there, he's completely knocked out in his bed. When I come in, he wakes up and I ask him, I say, hey, do you know anything about any scratching noises or anything like that? The resident downstairs says that she can hear scratching. He said, it's actually funny that you say that because I've been hearing scratching come from the wardrobe closet in the corner over there. Now, I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about, but it was like one of the big like wooden wardrobe closets with the 2 doors, and that's what every resident had their clothes in. They didn't have like closets or anything like that at this facility. Everybody had a big wooden wardrobe closet. So I said, that's weird. At this point, he had his little side table lamp on. I went and cut the big light on, and I went to go open the wardrobe closet and see if something was in the wardrobe closet. But before I did that, someone was like, Brittany, you should probably call somebody in here. So I go and grab the nurse outside in the med cart, and I'm like, hey, I know this is weird, this is a situation, but just come in here with me and make sure everything's okay. We open the wardrobe closet, and I kid you not, there are scratch marks, deep scratch marks, all in the bottom of this wardrobe closet. Now, it's important to add that this wardrobe closet was not big enough for a person to just go in and stand in. The only way somebody would be able to fit in the bottom of this wardrobe closet were to be half hanging out, scratching on the floor, or bent over, scratching, kind of like a cat type of thing. I knew it wasn't the resident. The resident was bedbound for the most part. He is not getting out of that bed. So who is scratching this wardrobe closet, okay? We go downstairs, we call security, we get them to check the hallway cameras. Nobody is in the camera or on the camera coming down the hall going into his room. He's not leaving his room. Again, he's bedbound. He's not getting out of that bed. But those claw marks were not anything that a human could have done. Even if they did have long fingers, those were like cat claw marks, like cat, dog, some type of animal claw marks. So we get downstairs and we get back to the nursing station after we checked in with security, and security is left. Where the nursing station is, there's an elevator. That is the same elevator I just took to go upstairs. That is the only elevator to get upstairs, the only way to get upstairs. We're sitting here talking about the situation that just happened, me and this nurse Jackie, and we're watching the elevator go from 2nd floor to 1st floor to the bottom level of which was under the 1st floor, the garage or something like that. Open, close, and do it all over again. So this door is acting or opening like somebody's on the elevator pushing a button and somebody's walking off the elevator. Didn't do this the whole night until we went upstairs to investigate the scratching noise. And y'all know what I did. I switched the patient and switched the facility. Get somebody else to do it.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
I have one. When I was 16, 17 years old, my bedroom was the attic of my parents' house. One night, I proceed to have one of the most real-feeling dreams I've ever had. In the dream, I'm sleeping in my bed. I wake up in the dream to an older woman standing in the corner of my bedroom. I do not know this woman, never seen this woman. She actually looked quite ghost-like, a little translucent. You could see through her a bit. Like, she looked like a ghost. She proceeds to ask me, I have a son. He needs someone to play with. Would you mind playing with him? Not sure why I chose to say yes, but I did. And I was like, yeah, I'll totally play with your son. That seems totally normal. Like, we're in a dream, so, like, fine, I'll play with your son. As soon as I say, yeah, I'll play with your son, he appears, like, if I'm laying in my bed, like, she's on this side, he appears on this side of the room, like, right where the stairs are, the top of the steps. And he starts to walk over to my bed, comes to my bed, and he's like, let's play arm wrestling. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. Let's play arm wrestling. So I put my hand up like this. He puts his hand in my hand, and we are arm wrestling. At first, it's like a good give and go. We're like, oh, yeah. And then, like, he pins my hand completely down. I feel his hand. Hold on. I feel his hand around my hand, ice cold. He pins my hand down and is staring at me. And I'm like, okay, like, let's play again. And he goes, I don't think you want to play this game with me. Just like that, like, dead stare. I don't think you want to play this game with me. So I'm like, what does that mean? Let's play, like, okay, let's play the game. So he goes, no problem. Digs his nails into my hand like that and starts pinning my hand to the bed, yelling, I win, 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 I win. I rip my hand away from his. I feel the scratch marks on my, like right here. And then he takes a step back with this like grin on his face. And he becomes this like black cloud of smoke. And I know that sounds unreal, but just stay with me. So he's this big cloud of smoke. This is all still in the dream. I get up, I'm screaming, I jump out of my bed. Here's where it gets crazy. I jump out of my bed in the dream and I wake up in real life and I am fully standing on my feet. So as I'm standing on my feet, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I'm down the stairs, out the room, right? And so my mom and my sister are downstairs in the kitchen cooking breakfast. My mom is a very spiritual person, so I have no problem just being like, yo, this is what just happened. Um, and it's like, disregard the dream if you want, but I was fully standing when I woke up. Insane. And so typically, not saying typically like this happens all the time to me, but like my mom we regularly would have priests come over, bless the house, things like that. So like that's not weird. So like my mom throwing holy water around the house is not like an odd thing in my household. So like I'm expecting her to be like, okay, let me go get the holy water. I'll spray your room down. Like, not a big deal. She goes, the holy water is right there. You're gonna go get it and go upstairs and throw it around your room with some salt. I'm like, why are you not doing it? She's like, I think you should do it. And I'm like, okay, this is insane. So I take the salt, I take the holy water, I go upstairs. My sister's like, I'll come with you, but I'm staying at the bottom of the stairs. Everybody's acting scared. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is something. So I have the holy water, I have the salt, I go upstairs. I have the holy water in like a little cup and I have the salt. I go upstairs and so I'm like throwing the holy water around, just a little flap around. And I have the salt and I throw it onto my bed and it sizzles. Bitch. I was gone. I never ran down a flight of stairs faster in my life. I don't even think I touched one step. I jumped from the top 11 steps down, bow, hit it. I was downstairs the next flight, bow, hit it. I didn't stop for shit. I said the only way I'm going back up there is if y'all bring a priest to hose this house down with a fire truck of holy water. I'm not playing at all with y'all. And so my mama got the priest to come and he blessed the whole house, top to bottom. He didn't miss no floor, no nook, no cranny. And I never had an experience like that again. So I don't know where that little boy is at, but I hope his soul is at rest because he.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
About 15 years ago, I worked in a restaurant that was inside of a house. The house was about 100 years old, maybe a little bit more. It had been built originally for the first mayor of that town, small city. I don't know how long families lived in that house, but by the 80s, it had been converted to a restaurant, a somewhat well-known French restaurant, which was led by a well-known French chef. It sat vacant for a while after the restaurant closed and was purchased by the owners that I ended up working for in early 2008. And by the end of 2008, we opened the restaurant and I worked there pretty much from the day it opened. When it had been converted to the first restaurant, about a third of the house had been converted to a restaurant kitchen, but the rest of the house was still very much a house. So you walked in the front door, you entered into a foyer, there was a hostess podium, there were benches and chairs for people to sit and wait for their table or to have a cocktail or an appetizer. You would walk through a giant entryway and then into a very large dining room. I think it had originally been a formal living room. The bar was on the far end of that dining room. It shared a wall with the kitchen. There was a staircase with a landing, and then around the staircase, there was a somewhat smaller dining room. The second floor featured the restrooms and two rooms that previously had been bedrooms, but they were converted to private dining rooms. So I was the bartender. I was there most nights. I closed almost every night. And so I was often there by myself for anywhere from, an hour and a half to 2 hours. There was a lot of side work, stocking to do, prep, and a lot of glassware to polish. So I would just be in there by myself, occasionally listening to music, but mostly just being quiet and just like zoning out. And there would be nights where I would be in there in the bar, polishing glassware, doing my side work, and I could hear in the other dining room what sounded like standard restaurant noise, like the noise you hear when you walk into a restaurant, voices, people chatting, cutlery hitting plates, ice in glasses, just like regular restaurant noise. And I knew nobody was in there. I knew I was the only person there. And I knew that if there was anyone in there, it wouldn't be enough for, there wouldn't be enough people to make that type of noise, right? And so I would go check, and of course, as I got down the hall, around the staircase, and into the room, the noise would stop. And it wasn't scary, but it was just weird. And I would bring it up to the owner, and she would say, oh, you're probably just hearing this, or you're probably just hearing this. Or at one point, she thought I needed to get my hearing checked, And then there were other nights where I would hear what sounded like kitchen noises. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant, you know what I'm talking about. Just the standard, like, pots hitting the stove, the clicking sound that like a gas stove makes when you're turning it on, water running, dishes clanging, utensils, people talking, like the cooks. I could hear like low male voices talking. And again, I knew nobody was in there. And I would be behind the bar most of the time doing that closing side work. And so the bar shared the wall with the kitchen. So it was even clearer. The kitchen door was right there. And I would still go in there and look, of course. And I'm like, I know what I'm hearing, but there's nobody there. And again, it wasn't scary. It was just like, this is weird. So the stairs to go to the second floor and the private dining rooms, you would go about 5 or 6 stairs. There was a small landing, and then the stairs would turn 5 or 6 more, and you'd be at the top. And as you got closer to the landing, up those first stairs, the temperature would start to change. It would start to get chilly, and by the time you got up to the second floor, it was outright cold. And it wasn't just the temperature change. There was like a heaviness in the air. The closer you got to the top, to the second floor, the heavier it became. It was a real uneasy feeling. And it wasn't just me that felt this, it was everyone. Other staff, other guests, right? At first, when we first opened in that first month or two, the owners just kept trying to figure out if like the heating was broken. I mean, again, it was a large old house. So they were like, it's just the heat, it's this and this and this. And eventually there was just no other answers. It was that something was going on. Nobody wanted to go to the bathroom because it was up there. And if I hadn't gone to the bathroom before everybody left, I would be holding it because there was no way I was going to the bathroom in that building by myself. One day I was working a double, and I had about 3 or 4 hours between my shifts, and I was taking college classes at the time. So I thought I would just go up to one of those private dining rooms and study. This was the middle of the day, broad daylight, like 2, 3 in the afternoon. I take all my stuff up there. I go sit down, and I only made it in one of those rooms for like 30, 45 minutes. It was so uncomfortable. It was just oppressive. The air was oppressive up there. It was just, I was very uneasy. People would, like large parties would make reservations. They would dine up there once or twice, and then they would ask to be seated in the dining room. And we didn't have room for large parties in the dining room downstairs. And they were like, we don't care. You can break our party up. We just don't really like it up there. Like nobody wanted to be up there. So one night I was there by myself, and we had recently gotten a television for the bar. So I was standing with my back to the bar, and I was looking up at watching the television with the sound kind of low while I was polishing glassware. And I was looking at the television, and I just like, at the same time, this like dark blur just like zipped by my right eye, and I felt like this jolt of electricity just go all down the side of my face and my neck. The hair on my arm just stood up on my right arm. So I turned and looked, and I was facing that large entryway that I mentioned that was connected to the foyer, and I didn't see anything. But I just knew like something else is here. Wasn't scared, but just kind of, I don't know. I went around the bar. I went out into the foyer because I was just looking for anything. And at this point, I know like it's not another human being, but something is in this building with me. And I was rounding the stairs, and as I got closer into that other dining room, I started to feel the electricity even more. So you would walk through the door. The door to that other dining room was on the right-hand side, and around you would around the corner into the dining room, and there was like a little weird alcove. Nobody really knew what it was, and you could fit like a table and two chairs there, like a bistro table and chairs there. And as I walked further into that dining room and got closer to that alcove, all the hair on my body stood up. Not necessarily my scalp, but like my arms, the back of my neck. Like I felt like someone had just zapped me with electricity, and it just kept getting stronger. And I started to get uneasy. That's when I started to get uneasy. And again, I wasn't fearful, but all I could say with certainty was that I knew that something was in that house with me, or some things, group of people, I don't know, and they were in that alcove. They were sitting at that bistro table. I shut everything down. I left. I did not finish my side work. I came in the next day. My boss was like, why was all this stuff out? And I told her what happened. And she was just like, yeah, there's been some stories about this house. And I'm like, oh, so now you tell us like all this stuff about me hearing things and saying, and you're trying to make it seem like I'm crazy. Anyway, long story short, that experience changed my entire perspective on what I think quote unquote ghosts are. I don't necessarily believe in ghosts as ghosts. After that day, I no longer believed in like transparent figures floating around a house. You know what I mean? It's energy. It is just straight up energy, and that is absolutely what I felt that day.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I've had a lot of paranormal experiences throughout my childhood. In fact, one of them happened like right behind me. But this particular story happened in the Philippines. My dad and mom built a house years ago, about 5 minutes away from my mom's hometown. This house is in the mountains. There are like no street lights. It's pretty out there. Many of my family members have had experiences in this house, let me say that. The way this house is set up is there's 3 stories. The second floor is like the kitchen, living room, and all that stuff. And then the 3rd floor are all our rooms. But the ground floor is actually where my aunt and my uncle lives. So there was one day where my cousin and I wanted to go to the river, and I had asked one of my aunts, and she was like, yeah, cool, that's fine. Just ask your aunt and uncle, the ones that live downstairs, if we can come with them, because they were gonna go on their way there too. My mom is from a poor area in the Philippines, so we didn't have like a washing machine, dryer in our house. We had to go down to the river to wash our clothes, which is what my aunt and uncle were gonna do. And so my cousin and I went to the ground floor. We were knocking on his door, and it was unlocked. So we were like, okay, like we'll open it a little bit, and we kind of just shouted through the door. And the way it's set up is that on the other side of the door, there's the kitchen and the living room, but you have to turn a corner to get to his room, which is where he was. He was on the phone. It sounded like a serious phone call, and we called him like twice, and he didn't answer. He was just talking on the phone. So we were just like, okay, cool. We'll just go by ourselves. My cousin and I walked our way down that hill to the river. We normally go with a lot of people or with an adult because it is like the mountains, and even though no one's from this area, if there was a car that went by, they could have easily like snatched us and gotten away with it because no one would have seen and there are no like lights in this area. But who do we find when we get down to the river? My aunt and uncle were like knee deep in laundry and we were just like, what the hell? Like, weren't you not just on a call back at home? No, they weren't. No vehicles had passed when we had gone down that hill to the river. So there was no way they could have walked or driven past. And that's just one of the experiences I had. I think my aunt that lives in the ground floor has had the most experiences in this house because there was one time I saw her crying we had like a priest in the house and he was like spraying like holy water or something. Unfortunately, my aunt has never told me any of her paranormal experiences, but my cousin who lives in the ground floor said that there was one time she's heard giggling from like children in the bedroom, like jumping on the bed. There was another time I was playing hide and seek tag with my cousins and we play it in pairs because it's scary going around this area on our own. And basically there's a second floor exit that goes towards like the back side of the house, towards the mountain area. And I remember my cousin and I wanted to be sneaky. We wanted to like hide outside, but we turn the corner and we see this glowing white man standing there, just standing outside. It was pitch black at night when this happened and he was just glowing. I saw the pants. He kind of had like spiky-ish hair. My cousin and I just looked at each other and we ran back inside the house. There was another time I was sleeping with my brother in the master's bedroom. One of my aunts was cleaning the 3rd floor, which is where that bedroom is, and she said that my mom walked into the room. So like a couple minutes after she was like doing the cleaning, she followed her into the room and apparently my mom wasn't there. She just thought it was my mom because the lady who walked into the bedroom I was sleeping in had long, like dark black hair. There was another time we had like a family gathering in the 2nd floor, which is where the kitchen, living room, and all that stuff is, and a family friend was around that gate where we saw that like glowing man. She was there with like dishes and doing dishes and stuff, and literally just randomly in the nighttime she screamed and ran back like into the house, and obviously everyone was like, what the hell just happened? She said that there was a stick poking through like the top-ish area of the gate. There's like a gate to get into the house, and apparently there was a wooden stick that was poking through the gate at her, but there was no one there and the stick like fell to the ground. I don't know. Obviously, as a family, we've had many experiences in this house. Nothing tops my haunted doll experience when I was a kid, but I don't even want to share that with the internet because I feel like it's so unbelievable. But yeah, I haven't been home in a while, but this house really has stuff going on in there.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
Every time I tell somebody this story, they have the most horrified look on their face. And when I tell you, I have tried to record this video 10 times, and either the audio wasn't working or TikTok wouldn't keep my recording. So let's hope this one works, and I'm going to tell you what happened to me in 2022. So this happened when my son was about 5 months old. Him and I were sharing a room. Now, let me say this first. He was sleeping 8 hours completely through the night. I was getting enough sleep. I was sleeping the best I've ever slept currently, and he's a toddler right now. So this is not sleep deprivation. I want to say that first and foremost. And there are other people who were involved, so let's get into it. I was about to go to sleep for the night, and I was scrolling on my phone, and I'm at my parents' house, by the way, at this point. So I roll over in my bed with my phone to face the direction of my bedroom door, which I had kept open before all of this happened. I hear somebody walking up the stairs, which I assume is my brother because he had lived there too at the time. But he stops at the top of the stairs and he kind of just like peeks into my room just a little bit, and I know it's him because it's like his face and his height and his hair. Like, he had an afro at the time. That was the outline of my brother. And so I look at him and I'm like, what are you doing? And he doesn't answer me. He just keeps staring at me. And I say again, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you just staring at me? At this point, because it's dark, I could only see the outline of him, or it moves in front, like right center in my door, and it's just staring at me. And I look at him and I'm like, Sam, what do you need? This all happened in 0.0005 seconds, okay? So as soon as I realize that that is not my brother, I sit up in bed, like jolt up in bed, And as I do that, I'm still staring directly at whatever it was. It just disintegrates like sand into the air. I don't know how else to explain it. I sound crazy, I know. Just sand, just disintegrates and disappears. I don't go to sleep that night. I'm wide awake, freaked the fuck out. But I don't say anything until the following week. So at this point, I shut my bedroom door because absolutely not. I'm about to go to bed again. I'm scrolling on my phone and I roll over once again to face the direction of the door. This time, in the pitch black, it's the outline of my son's father. And at first, I was like, why are you just standing there? Because he was living with us at the time. And then I realized in my brain, Theo's dad didn't spend the night that night. He's not supposed to be here. And how could he get in my house at 10 o'clock at night when everybody's asleep? It's the exact same thing. I grabbed my phone, I turned the flashlight on, but this time I saw like this, again, 0.005 seconds, just like this super pale face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, but like this menacing feeling attached to it. And again, just like sand, gone. So at this point, I'm not a super religious person, but I feel like I needed some Jesus Christ in this moment. So I go to my parents, I tell them what's been going on. My parents were not a believer before this story. I've always had weird things happen to me throughout my life with paranormal stuff, and they just don't believe me. But I asked my mom to get one of her close friends, a close family friend, to come pray over my room because she's done that type of work for years. She goes and prays over people's houses who have spirits attached to them. So to her, it's just to like entertain me and make me feel safer. So the family friend comes over and she's like, I'm going to go pray over your room and see what's going on. And I was like, perf. She goes up there. She's up there for like an hour, for a very, very, very long time. But who am I to judge? I don't do seances. You know what I mean? I don't know. To sum it up with you, when she did come back downstairs, she talked to my mom for a bit and then she leaves. My mom told me that her friend told her that of all her years doing this, she's never walked into a room or a house and got instantly chills all over her body. And that's exactly what happened when she walked into my room. She said she prayed over it for that long amount of time. Whatever was there was gone. She rebuked it, I guess, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. But she said if it does come back, she like told me certain prayers to do to make it go away. My parents from that day forward are complete believers in the spiritual realm. I am as well. That was like so terrifying. I haven't seen it since. Please, Lord, that was the wrong hand, but you get it. Like, I don't want to see it ever again. But yeah, that's my terrifying story, and I don't have any explanations for it. I have so many other ones that also have witnesses to it, but this is already super long, so this is what I'm going to keep it as. But yeah, so that's my unbelievable ghost story.
Okay, so I've been meaning to tell this story. So it's like 4 years ago or so, I was staying at this lady's house for a few nights. And one morning, I was like getting up, but I wasn't like fully awake yet. Like I was like getting myself up out of sleep, or so it seemed. And then all of a sudden, I hear like heels really loud, like someone walking in heels, walking around me. I remember my heart going really fast, and I was like, and I didn't want to like fully get myself up because I was like scared. And then all of a sudden I see a woman that was wearing like this blue dress, and it was like the reminiscent of like the 1920s, and she had like short hair, kind of like mine, maybe a little bit shorter, and like curls, and it was blonde. And then all of a sudden I hear these voices saying they're coming, they're coming. And then I like jolt myself up, and then it stops, and and so I convinced myself that I felt that it was real, but I was basically gaslighting myself, telling myself that, oh no, I was probably just dreaming still, like whatever, and I kind of passed it off. So then later on, the lady of the house comes home, and she's telling me about the house, and she goes, oh, did you know that this house was owned once by this madame who used to hold parties in the 1920s? And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I told her what happened to me that morning. She's like, oh, that doesn't surprise me, stuff happens here. And yeah, so super crazy. That was like a more like definitive experience have I had that I feel like is probably just like residual energy. I've had a lot of like spiritual experiences and, you know, connections to certain like other like beings and this like that. But when it came to like ghost story type of things, that was the most definitive one that I've had. It was just so clear as day. Um, and yeah. Again, I think it was more of like a residual energy, but also I feel intuitively the voices that said they're coming. I believe it was people that were at her party, and they were talking about the cops. Like the cops are coming because, so you guys know, anyone that was like holding parties or speakeasies or anything like that in the 20s, it was illegal. And yeah, I really feel that's what it was. It was just like this residual energy, a memory still playing in time, and it's really cool. Anyway, I'll see you guys. Bye.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So, when I was about 14, I went to go visit my grandma in Florida. Florida has always been a spiritual place for me ever since I started visiting there when I was like 12 or so. So, honestly, if anywhere this were to happen, it would be Florida. At this time of my life, I was really getting into Wicca and like empathy and the clairs and psychic abilities in general. I was really starting to understand that humans have the access to psychic abilities, and this really fascinated my 14-year-old brain. My grandma's house was always a little bit creepy to me. She just moved to a new house in Florida this year, and I was sort of like, okay, it's a little weird in here, but whatever, it's probably just my nerves. I would hear weird sounds. Sometimes I felt like I was hearing footsteps, but I would talk to my grandma the next day and she said nobody went over to that side of the house in the night. I would sometimes feel like I could see figures out of the corner of my eye, but I just played it all off as it was just me. The final straw was when I woke up in the middle of the night one night. Bear in mind, it was 3 a.m., and ever since I was a little kid, I've always been super antsy about being awake at this time because the energy is just so much. I was sharing a bed with my sister in my grandma's house in Florida, and she was fast asleep snoring. I looked over to the left to like the bedside table that was by her side of the bed, and the rosary that normally was like hanging off of the lamp on that side started to sway left and right. And I remember I was like, okay, there's no fan on, the AC isn't blowing that strongly, like what is going on? And remember, it's 3 a.m., so I'm literally already pissing my pants. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway so clearly, and the closet door of that room started to make like a sound. It was like a sort of like a creaking sound, like something was moving in it, but not like moving around a lot. Like something was just standing there and it was creaking because of the weight on the floorboard, if that makes any sense. I looked back over to the moving rosary because I was so freaked out and I was about to go turn on the lights. And literally, as I was like, okay, I'm turning on the lights, a candle turned on that was on that same like nightstand. It had like a lamp, a picture, a candles, the rosary, some other stuff. The candle created a flame. It turned on. I candles don't turn on, so I absolutely started to lose my shit. My first instinct was to wake up my sister, even though she was a lot younger than me, just to see if she also saw what I was seeing. As I started to wake up my sister, the candle went back out. Excuse me? Moral of the story, I turned on the lights. I basically stayed up until the next day. I told my grandma, and she said that she had collected a bunch of antique tea kettles from an estate sale, and that ever since she got them, she did notice some weird things were happening. My grandma is super into the spiritual world and Christian, and honestly, I just would have liked a warning. So I would like to hear your ghost story now as well, and I have plenty of others if you'd like to hear them.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, hi, this is my time to shine. Now, if you saw my Susie Stitch video, you know I had a great auntie named Ann, okay? My auntie Ann is my dad's aunt, right? So she's my great auntie, but we had an auntie named Louise. Louise is Anne's auntie, so that makes Louise my great great aunt. But she wasn't super old. It just sounds like that because my great grandma had a sister that was super young. So Auntie Louise and Auntie Anne, even though they were auntie and niece, they were super close in age, and they were super close, like locked in. They were more like sisters. They loved each other, right? Okay. So my auntie Louise died when I was about in third grade. She died from cancer. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself, because I remember after she died, I, for some reason, had like a heightened awareness of paranormal things. Like, I was suddenly afraid to be in places that I've always been alone in. I was afraid to be in them alone because I was like sensing some type of heightened sense of like a different realm or something. I don't know. But my auntie Louise died, and my auntie Anne is distraught because again, they're like sisters, right? So some time after she died, I'm at my auntie Anne's house, and I'm in her room by myself. My auntie Anne, I don't even know if she's home. I don't know where my cousin Missy is. I don't know where Michael is. I don't even know where my cousin little Mikey is. Like, I'm just in my auntie's room alone. That's not uncommon. Like, I was always in her room by myself. She had the most peaceful room in the house. So I'm in her room by myself, and I'm sitting on the bed. I'm just watching TV, hanging out, and the bed just starts aggressively shaking. I don't mean like I may have moved and like the bed may have had some residual shake. No, the bed is like aggressively shaking with me on it. I know nobody's playing a prank on me because again, I'm by myself. I would have saw anybody else in the room. My cousin Mikey was way younger than me, so there's no way he can move me and the big old bed, you know? So I knew that it was something else. I also like tested it a little bit, like I moved to make sure I wasn't tripping. Now, something about me and paranormal stuff is when it happens, I don't acknowledge it, because in my head, if I don't acknowledge it, it can't like harm me, or it like goes away, or it doesn't exist. So what did I do when that bed started aggressively shaking? I silently got up and I just slid off that bed and I just walked out the room, and I never told nobody. I didn't tell anybody. I just told my mama this story like a couple weeks ago, like for the first time. So fast forward, it's 2016, and my auntie Anne passes away, right? So we're at her house. Now, this isn't the same house where the bed was shaking. This was just the last house she ever lived in. So me and my cousin Missy, who is Auntie Anne's daughter, we just in the house, and like we're all talking and we're telling stories and stuff, because my auntie Anne was very paranormally inclined. Like, so much stuff happened to her, and anything paranormal for me mostly always happened in one of her houses. Like, her houses were the hub of paranormal activity. She has stories for days, and if I would have any like paranormal dream, I would ask her about it first because she was very like knowledgeable in that area. So anyway, we all sitting around in her house and just having memories and telling stories. So I tell the story about me sitting in my auntie Anne's room. And do you know, before I could finish that story, my cousin Missy goes, and the bed started shaking, didn't it? And I was like, how did you know that? What? Like, how did you know? And she was like, after Auntie Louise died, my mama took one of her leather bound journals and she kept it, and she would keep it underneath the bed, underneath the mattress. And ever since she would put that leather bound journal underneath the mattress, she was like, she don't know what it was, but the bed would just shake like that. And this is the early 2000s. Like, there wasn't any toy or device that was doing that. So she was just like, yeah, ever since she put that journal under there, the bed would just shake all the time. So I don't know what was in that journal. I don't know what was so special about it. I don't know if it was like witchy or what, but I just thought that was so crazy, and I felt so validated because I never told nobody that story because I didn't want to sound crazy. So
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely
I have two big ones that have personally happened to me. One of them is super scary. The other one is nice, and I'm going to tell you the nice one first. Okay, so to preface this, spooky things have always happened to my stepmom, and 99% of the unexplainable things that have happened to me have also been in her presence. She's just one of those, like, magnets for this type of thing. So my stepmom's best friend from childhood passed away when they were in their early 20s. Later, my little brother, my stepmom's son, was born on the birthday of this particular friend. And my brother was born with like 4 concurrent congenital heart conditions. So his whole early life, first couple of years of life, he was in and out of the hospital, having heart surgery, cath labs, all that kind of stuff. On Valentine's Day one year, my father got my stepmom just like this crappy stuffed heart from like a gas station. And when you pressed on the heart's hand, it would play this song. And the song was like, do 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 do, do 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 do, if you know it. And they started having this thing happen where pretty much every year on my brother's birthday, also the friend's birthday, or Christmas, or anytime my brother was going to have kind of a big procedure done in the hospital, this heart would go off by itself. And it like didn't need to have batteries. Like just randomly you would hear the do 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 when something big was going on, particularly around my brother, birthday twins. So I knew about the heart. I knew that this would happen sometimes. Spooky, but nice, right? Because it's assumed to be the best friend. Who wouldn't love that? That's nice. One day, me and my stepmom are home alone and we're just sitting downstairs, sort of folding laundry or something, just talking. And she's telling me about this dream she had about her best friend one night. And there were a lot of unanswered questions kind of around this particular friend's death. And, you know, my stepmom was really missing her one night. My father has night terrors, so he'll often kind of like go sleep on the couch if he's having a bad night so he doesn't disturb my stepmom, and he'll always close the bedroom door behind him. In this particular dream, my stepmom dreamt that the door was closed, my father wasn't there, and her friend comes in the door, kind of like gets into bed with her, and they just talk. And she told me that this felt so real that her friend answered all the questions that she had surrounding her death. They got to express how much they missed each other. And it was just really like calming and soothing for her to have that sort of final conversation with her friend. She wakes up the next morning from this dream and the door is open, as if in the dream her friend had opened the door. So she's telling me this really like meaningful dream she had with her friend. And we're both folding laundry and she pauses in the middle of laundry and she goes, wait, hold on. And from upstairs in the nursery where that heart is, as we're talking about this friend, we both hear do 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 do. It sent chills down my spine because we were talking about her. She knew we were talking about her. This thing went off. And it was just a sign of like, I know you're talking about me. I'm here. However, I was 16 and like a scaredy cat and I was sleeping in the room where the heart was. So I walked in later and I was like, hi. Please don't do anything while I'm here. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Okay, I'm sorry. Work has been crazy. I will tell you guys my scary ghost story now. I tried to record this. It got way too long, so I'm gonna try. Okay, I grew up in Washington. My other set of parents, my father and stepmom, live outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. So I would go stay with them like once or twice a year, let's say. This particular time, they had just moved to a new house and I was very excited because their last house was a dark place. Scary. I have stories about that house that I will not share here, but let's just say that I was super relieved that they were not there anymore. I was excited. So picture it, summer, 17, I'm going to stay with my other family. I'm like, oh, creepy things won't happen anymore. That's great. Little did I know. Okay, quick layout. Bottom floor, all the living area, set of stairs, very small landing, and all the bedrooms are clustered around this landing. On this particular night, everyone goes to bed before me, let's say at like 10. Parents in one room with my baby brother, my other little brother who's like 12 at the time in the other room, and then the nursery, which is where I'm sleeping. Okay, so it's like midnight, I'm awake, I'm 17, I'm reading a book. I had just gone to the bathroom, so I knew for a fact everyone was upstairs because they all sleep with their doors open. The landing is super small, so I saw all of them a moment ago. They were all fully asleep in their beds. So I'm minding my own business, reading, and from the bottom of the stairs, I hear something. And it's footsteps on the stairs. And it sounded like a little kid almost, like, you know how little kids just like kind of barrel up and down the stairs, like do 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 do. Yeah. Stops at the top of the stairs. I'm like, what the is this? I hear it go back down. Do 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 do. This continues to happen. I hear it multiple times. Do 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 do. My grandma was very spooky and kooky, and she always told me if anything paranormal happened to ignore it, because if you pay attention, you'll like feed into the energy and it will get more aggressive and stronger or something. So this is in my head and I'm like, I'm ignoring this. Nothing's happening. Everything's fine. And again, stuff had happened at their last house and I was just like, not again. So I'm ignoring it because it's gonna stop, right? At this point, I have like a headphone in, volume very low, pretending I'm not listening to the running up and down the stairs. I hear it come back up. Do, 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 do. It stops. Stops for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, maybe it's done. Let's say 5 minutes passed after this thing had stopped at the top of the stairs. Again, the landing is small, so let's say hypothetically, wherever this thing stopped is like 3 feet from my closed door. After a few minutes, I'm sure everything is all good. I kind of relax and I'm still reading my book. And then suddenly, it was like a full-grown man, like a 6 foot tall man, took both of his fists and slammed it way harder than that. Slammed it against the door of the room I was sleeping in. The door shook. I jump up. If there's fight and flight, there's also freeze. And I fucking froze. I was so scared. But again, my grandma's wisdom, I'm like, I have to ignore it. Nothing happened. 2 minutes later, again, harder. And the vibe was genuinely like, don't ignore me. That was like the vibe I got from the second slam. A couple minutes go by, I haven't moved. But I'm like, what do I do? I decide to take action. I take my blanket, wrap it around my body for protection. Flip on my bedroom light. I swing open the door to meet my fate. The landing is empty. Everyone is sleeping, obviously. I flip on the hallway light, flip off my light. Flip on my brother's light, flip off the hallway light. Close his door, shake him half awake, and I'm like, scoot over, I'm sleeping in here. I'm 17, he's 12. We haven't shared a bed in several years, but that's how scared I was. It is summer in Nevada, and I literally have the covers over my face like this, and I'm like breathing in my own carbon dioxide, but I was like, I have to have the covers over my face. After like 15 minutes on his door, again, softer, but kind of like a, I know you're still in there. I was like, thank God I'm going home tomorrow. Anyway, this started happening to them after I left. This would happen on my brother's door, the slamming. From downstairs, they would also start hearing like muffled arguments at the landing, like voices fighting. Anyway, they moved out of that house as quickly as possible because it was super scary. I don't know if this was like an actual ghost. I don't know if this was like residual energy from like a bad DV type of thing going on in that house previously, but I did not like it. And yeah, that's it. Sorry this was super long. You guys are some ghost story fiends, but that's okay. Me too. I got some comments on my other videos of like, oh, of course you have ghost stories because you believe in ghosts, blah, blah, blah. I want you to know I am not seeking this out. This is not something that happens to me all the time. In fact, nothing has happened to me in like 12 or 13 years. On paper, I'm a very credible person. But all I'm saying is, like, if I were making it up, I think I would project this onto a lot more stuff in my life, and like, this is all very isolated. Okay, so story one from the old house. It was the first time that I was going to stay there. Me and my brother are hanging out in the living room by ourselves, and he goes, you know, this house is haunted, right? And I'm like, shut up, don't tell me anything, shut up. But he's my little brother, so he's a dick. So he starts telling me like all the stuff that happens in this house, and it is just like a barrage of activity constantly. Like, you might not find these stories as scary as some of my other ones, but for my family, like, we reflect on that house and think of it as like the truly scary house because of how often things were happening. Anyway, he's telling me about how the house is haunted. I'm like trying not to listen to him, but then we hear a noise. And my father's house is decked out in like Raiders stuff at this time. He's like, he's a California boy, OG Raiders fan, not just because they're in Vegas now. But like, there's like a Raiders tin above the front door that's like one of those tins you'd see in a bar that's decorative. It's like a football helmet and the Raiders logo. And it starts just like vibrating on the wall like da 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 da. I wonder if I have something that can mimic it. Okay, I'm at my husband's art desk. And here's a metal thing. So it's a metal thing on the wall like this, and it starts like really fast. And it goes on for like a minute or two. So it's not just like a big truck going by or something, you know, which is what my explanation would be. It went on for a little too long. Okay, story two, the radio. Okay, so the way that this house is laid out is the primary bedroom is like all on one side of the house, and then the other bedrooms are all the way on the other side of the house. So it's like the nursery and my brother's room. And when I would come stay, me and my brother would like have like sleepover time. Like, we would be in the nursery with like blankets on the floor, just gossiping. So he falls asleep. His bedroom is down the hallway, and weird stuff happen in there all the time. He has like a very 2000s style stereo, like one of the ones with the volume knob that you have to manually rotate to turn up and down the volume. And I'm the only one awake, of course. And I hear his radio turn on from his room, and the volume turns up all the way. All the way. It was so loud. Turns down. Turns back up, turns down. And it wasn't like, there wasn't rhyme or reason to the frequency, because if it was like the same amount of time or pattern, I'd be like, oh, it's like bugging out or whatever. It was like, it would stay loud sometimes for a second, sometimes it would stay loud longer. I don't know. There was no pattern. So that probably happens like 6 times, and then the radio just turns off while it's at like almost full volume. I was like, I hate it here. Okay, story 3, the cabinets. This one was in the middle of the day, and I have the bathroom door locked because I'm taking a shower. My worst fear is stuff happening while I'm in the shower. I'm so vulnerable. I'm shampooing my hair, and I hear like like tapping on the wall. I look out of the shower, every single cabinet door in the bathroom has swung open. Every single one. Freaked me out. I also have shampoo in my hair. I'm like, not today. So I finish shampooing, water running and shampoo running down my face, like into my fucking eyes. Cause I'm like, you're not gonna sneak up on me. Okay, story 4, the cat. My stepmom was cat sitting for her best friend, and this was like the world's most ancient cat, I swear to God. It was so old. The entire time, which was like almost a week, that cat just stayed in the bathroom in front of the vents, which is word. Like, it is Nevada, it's hot, like, me too. Its food was in there, the litter box was in there. It did not leave. I cannot emphasize this enough. It did not leave that room the entire time. Until one night, I decide I'm going to sleep on the couch. This was after the radio incident, so I was scared. So I was watching TV because I was scared, and turn it off, decide I'm like going to go to sleep now. When the cat, for the first time in days, walks out. It's 3 a.m., by the way. That's important to note. walks out, stands directly in front of me, stares at me, and just starts meowing persistently. Like yowls as well, like meow, meow. I was like, what? Stop. So I was hoping the cat just decided randomly it wanted to like be pet or something. So I go to like pet it, hoping that's what it wants, and it shirks away from me. And just after it shirks away, it looks above my head and it's following something like that. And I'm like, nope. Covers over my head, waiting, and then the cat just walks back into the bathroom, doesn't leave again for the entire rest of the time my stepmom's cat sitting. All right, the final story I will tell about that house is secondhand. So my brother would wake up sometimes and he would see a man in a hat like standing at the end of the bed. Super scary. I've never seen anything. I hope to God I never do. But one night he wakes up, nothing's there, but he can feel his blanket, like, hold on, I'll do this with my keffiyeh. He feels his blanket like being pulled off of him like this. And so he panics and he like grabs it back up to him, right? And just after he does that, something pulls it all the way off. It flies off the bed, hits the wall, like flies all the way off of him. And I'm pretty sure he like went and woke up my parents and like slept in there or something. It was scary. I've spoken to 3 different people who have lived on that same road who also had really scary things happen in their house. So like something's up over there. If you live on Tiger Lily Way in Henderson, Nevada, something is wrong. My stepmom is also like really in tune at the time with like whatever is going on with her. And she would like see things, particularly in the archway of between like the living room and kitchen. There's like a little archway, and she would see things like pass between it all the time. She would see the man in the hat like in the hallway, crossing by the archway, like all kinds of stuff. That's kind of when she decided to like shut down her brain to those types of things. And now nothing has happened. In the house that they've been in for over 10 years, nothing's wrong, which is great. Anyway, those are all the ones that are more or less like firsthand for me. You know, I've heard other things from other people in my family, but we'll leave it at that.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I witnessed a murder in Hot Springs in July 2022. Now, Ashley, how did you witness a murder if this is about ghost stories? Well, I'm so glad you asked. There's an abandoned building. It is an old Army Navy hospital. I think it was the first general hospital that served both the Army and the Navy in the country. It is in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And then in 1960, it was turned into a rehabilitation facility. So I don't even like this story gets me every time. Like, I'm so overwhelmed right now. However, I really want to tell you guys. So me and my best friend went to Hot Springs for a girls' weekend back in July 2022. We were writing a book, and this was our book launch weekend where we were going to brainstorm, make plans, make the outline, etc., all the things. Well, we decided to take a break and go explore Hot Springs a little bit. Neither of us had been there. She's from out of state, and I had never been there. We go to this hospital. Now, this hospital is right downtown. The main street is dubbed Bathhouse Row. So that's like the cute little main street in Hot Springs, like your typical, touristy area. And there's a couple bathhouses that are still functioning today. Now, we go up to this building and suddenly I get this severe pain in my whole midsection from my chest through to my back. So I turn to her and I say, I don't want to go any further. This hurts. I don't feel like something's wrong. And we decided to go down the hill, walk away from the hospital, and explore Bathhouse Row a little bit. So we're walking down. It is dusk. And I turn and look over my right shoulder. And when I tell you I saw someone being pushed from that balcony, I did a freaking double take. It was the craziest, most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And she saw me see it. The blood drained from my face. And she stopped and looked at me and she was like, "What did you just see?" And I just looked at her. I couldn't really speak at first. And I just said, "I just saw someone being pushed." And she looks at me and I'm just like trying to breathe. Like, I'm kind of panicking a little bit. I was like, was that real? Was that a spirit? Did I just witness a quote unquote real murder? Like, what did I just see? And she turns and looks at me and she goes, "Ashley, the pain that you're feeling, the pain that you've been feeling, that spirit was trying to get your attention. That's the impact pain." When she said that, I felt like I could vomit. That was the first time I had ever experienced a spirit letting me feel how they died. Now, I've experienced it a lot since then, but that was the first time. It was very overwhelming. That being said, we go down to Bathhouse Row and we're walking and we suddenly hear this noise and we look up and there are tens of thousands of bats circling above our heads. I have footage. I'm going to add that at the end. I've never released this footage. I've never posted anywhere. It has just really rocked my world. And me and her just looked at each other and we were like, who the fuck is doing witchcraft around here? These bats were circling above us. And as we walked down Bathhouse Row, they were following us. If we stopped, they stopped. I still get chills thinking about it.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So as I've said before in other story times, growing up with a psychic mother and a psychic grandma who have a long line of psychics in their family, ghosts in the spirit world is just second nature for me. And this story isn't really scary, but however, it's supernatural. My mom's been psychic since around the ages of like 12, 13, 14, and she had her first vision where she saw her grandmother fall down the stairs, and her grandmother lived in the next state. Long story short, in under 24 hours, it ended up coming full circle, and it was then my grandma revealed to my mom that there's a long line of psychics in our family that go beyond the plantation. And my grandma always made a point to let us know it can be a gift and a curse. Pretty much saying, to whom much is given, much is required. And for their gifts, when they come, it's not like the Long Island medium for them. So the year is 2004, I'm up at the kitchen table, it's a weekday, I don't know why I'm not in school, but I wasn't. My aunt was in the living room, because when I was growing up, it was my mom, my grandma, and my two aunts, we all lived together. So my aunt was in the living room watching General Hospital, because she loved her soap operas, even though I hated it, because I could never watch my PBS Kids show. And General Hospital, I think, used to come around too. My mom's in her bedroom, because she's like one of those people, she stays in her room. So my mom's door flings open, and she comes out looking like she's in a cold sweat having a panic attack, and she tells us she just had a premonition. Now, something's odd, because she ain't never acted like this. And within the premonition, she saw herself and her siblings at a funeral, and there was only 8 of them when there's 9 of them all together. And they all had on funeral attire, but oddly enough, she couldn't see any faces because they all had like these dark veils on. And any funeral in my family, we've never wore dark veils at all. And to the side of all of her siblings, she saw a short, older lady hunched over, which was my grandma. So my aunt, who's in the living room watching General Hospital, I'll never forget it, she walked up to her and she said, "It wasn't me, was it?" And my mom says, "I don't know. I couldn't see any faces. So it could be any one of us. It could be me for all she knew, like herself." And since my mom didn't see any faces because she couldn't put a name on it, so she starts telling all her siblings what she saw, and they thought it was their estranged brother who left the family 20 years ago. I never even met him, and they used to tell me story how he used to be into the occult. For the lack of a better example, he was our family's Bruno from Disney's Encanto. So my mom reveals the premonition to people in the family, and they just go on living because at the end of the day, you can't stop the inevitable. Mom had the vision in 2004. In 2005, this summer around August, The aunt who asks is up making coffee one morning and she drops to the ground. She passes out in the kitchen in the early mornings. They take her to the hospital. Long story short, we find out she gets diagnosed with brain and lung cancer. And then it's a year later, so now it's 2006. I'm in 5th grade now. She passes away. And I feel like the reason why this story has always stuck out to me, because observing it now from an adult perspective, I noticed when my mom told all her other sisters, because you know, when black people get together, your aunts, the gossip sessions never end. Nobody asked if it was them. They were just like, okay, like just preparing themselves, because like I said, you can't beat the inevitable. However, the one person it was asked my mom and she couldn't confirm it. And when I got to her funeral and I was looking at her body, I just kept on recalling that afternoon where I'm sitting up at the table, my mom had the vision, my aunt asked if it was her, and it was. And it was at that young age where I finally realized what my grandma meant when she said this can be a gift and a curse and it can be heavy to carry.
I stumbled upon this video.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
I don't care who believes me with the story because my sister and I saw it and I believe me and her. So me and my sister, we lived in this old house that's actually right over there. That's the old house we lived in. I know, it looks scary. But one day, when me and my sister and my mom were cleaning out this one part of the house that we never really, saw, we found this doll, and it looked exactly like the real Annabelle doll. Me and my sister, at the time, we didn't know what the real Annabelle doll looked like, so we're like, oh, cute, like this huge-ass doll, it's like this tall. But we found this doll, and we thought, oh, Halloween is coming up. Let's go put this doll in a trail and put it on a tree and make it look down on people. So when they go through the trail and their snow-glow lights are on, they'll see that doll just looking down at them. It'll be so creepy, such a good prank. And we did that. Me, my mom, my sister, we put that thing up in the tree, put little, snow pants on it and a hat and stuff, make it look just creepy, like it was a little kid up in the tree. We put it up there and we went back home. Me and my sister went to bed and we woke up the next day and we wanted to go visit my dad because, my mom and dad are divorced and so we were going to go visit them. And me and my sister started our snow go up, and when we started up, we start going in the trail and we reached a part where we put the doll up in the tree and we look up and it's gone. And we're like, okay, that's weird. Somebody must have just taken it home or something. We kept on going down the trail and there's this part of the trail that goes down into a river. And this river is frozen ice, but there's a stack of logs and, sticks and stuff that my grandpa, put on the ice. So when we get down there, we look at that pile of wood and we see somebody messing with the woods, throwing the sticks up in the air behind its back. And we don't know who it is because this person is facing away from us. So since it's my uppa's wood and his logs, I stop the snow go and I say, hey, what are you doing? And I see this thing just drop. I thought, what's wrong with them? Are they okay? So I get up and I run. And I go check that person, but as I got closer, I noticed the size of the person looked like it got smaller. When I grabbed the arm of that, what I thought was a person, I felt the texture of it, and I flipped it over, and it's that doll. I freaked the fuck out, and I start running to the snow machine, telling my sister to start the snow machine. She's crying and she's trying to start the snow machine, but she can't start it because she's too small. So I get there and I pull the snow go and we book it. Yeah, we burned the doll afterwards in a fire. So I think that's, we were not about to try to throw that thing in the trash and then it comes back into our house at night and then, possesses us.
A story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, excuse how I look, but I'm gonna try to be super quick when I tell this story. So this happened to me about a month ago, and I'm laying in my bed. I had just had the strangest dream in the world. And I woke up from my dream because, it was scary, something was chasing me or whatever. And I went in the bathroom, and then I just woke up out of fear. And I just sat there, and I was just looking at my bedroom wall. The way my bed is set up, so if you walk in my room and you look to the right, my bed is on the far left wall. And when I was sleeping, my back was turned to the door, so I couldn't see anything. So I'm just chilling, right? And I'm laying there. Mind you, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And I hear the loudest footsteps running through our house. Our house, we have real hardwood floors, so you can hear when somebody's walking through the house, you can hear that. But somebody was in there running, and they wasn't running fast, girl. They wasn't stopping. But
they did end up stopping, and they stopped at my room door. And I'm just laying in my room, and I'm looking at my wall like, what? It just ran through the house and stopped at my door for some reason. Like, what was that? And then I hear my bedroom door open. I know what my door sounds like. Like, if you have like a newer house, you know how, like if you open and close your door, like it makes like a clicking noise or whatever. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I heard my door open, and I'm just laying there like in fear. Like, I've never felt so scared before in my life. Like, I'm so serious. And I'm just laying there, and I feel something behind me. Like, y'all, it was like the darkest presence I've ever felt. Like, it felt not human, okay? Whatever was standing behind me was not a person. I thought it was, but it wasn't. The longer I sat there and realized that it was not a person. So I'm laying there, and I usually have the covers up to my neck, but this night I did not. I was slacking a little bit, and my neck was exposed. It was this side of my neck right here. It was exposed, and I felt something touch my neck. Like, it was so sharp. It touched my neck. Like, y'all, I literally thought something like, think of the sharpest object you can, and imagine it poking you in your neck, like boop, like that. Or like it happened fast but slow at the same time. Like, it was like that. So I jump out of my bed. Excuse me. I turn around. Nobody's there, of course. And my bedroom door is closed. It was never open. It never got opened. So I jump up, and I go to the door, and I open the door, because at first I thought it was my brother, because I know he comes in there sometimes and, like, snooping around and stuff, trying to find my phone charger, this, that, and the third. I know he does that a lot. So I thought that was him. So I walk across the hall, because my bedroom and his bedroom are adjacent from each other. So I walk across the hall. This man's asleep. Sound asleep. Mind you, he has a bunk bed, so he got to climb up the ladder to get in the bunk bed, and he would have been up there by now. Like, he would have still been climbing the ladder. Like, by the time I made it to the door, open my door, he would have still been climbing the ladder, and I would have heard his bed, because his bed's kind of squeaky. So I'm like, what the heck just ran in here and touched me? What was that? So, y'all, I went in my room, and I sat on my bed, and I cried, and I put on scriptures. I started looking up Google scriptures, reading the Bible, praying, everything, on my knees, listening to sermons, playing gospel music. Girl, I was not playing. I said, whatever you are not welcome. Please get away from me right now. I don't play those type of games. I don't. Also, I'm gonna mention, when this happened, I was on my I done fell off a little bit, not gonna lie, but I was on my journey with having a relationship with Jesus Christ, and y'all, I think something was in there, and they were trying to get me. I don't play like that. And then I had called my boyfriend because I was scared, but yeah, y'all, and I didn't go to bed till like an hour or two later, and I was still scared when I went to bed. So I had my little sermons playing, scriptures playing in the background on my TV. Everything was playing, girl. I don't play them games, but that's my little ghost story.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So my kids never met my grandparents. They passed when they were really young, and they lived out of state. And my grandfather lived in an assisted living home. He had really bad Alzheimer's, and my kids never met them. He passed away first, and this happened when my oldest son was 3 years old. And on the day that it happened, I got a phone call telling me, but I didn't say anything to my kids about it because they were 1 and 3. They didn't know him, and I just didn't think that they would understand and didn't want to upset them. So on that day, I put my son down for his nap, and after a little while, I could just tell he wasn't asleep and he wasn't gonna go to sleep. So I went and got him out, and he was all happy and excited, and he told me, "I love the ghost." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "There's a ghost in my room." And at first I really didn't think much into it, just because kids say random stuff, and I don't know, but it was weird because ghosts aren't something that we would have talked about, and this was in April or May, so it wasn't around Halloween or a time where he'd be hearing about ghosts or thinking about them. So I'm like, what did it look like? And he said, it's a man, he's old, he has white hair, and he's really small. And this is where it really freaked me out, because my grandfather was obviously like white hair and old. He was in his 80s, but he was really short, and in his last few years he had gotten very, very thin because of his illness. So he was very small, and I'm like, okay, like what did he do? What did he say? And he said, he came to say hi to me. I'm like, is he still there? Like, where did he go? He goes, no, he went into the light. And for me, like, I totally believe that that was his spirit coming to visit, but I did have some family members that were like, oh, it's just a coincidence. Like, kids just like tell funny things. Like, it's a coincidence that it was on the same day. So then 4 or 5 months later, my grandmother passes away. And kind of like a backstory to this is the last few months my dad and uncles were kind of no contact with her. So she had called me randomly one day and asked me if I would be her medical contact, and I said yes. And she was like, I just want you to understand what this means is, like, if I pass, you will be the person that is contacted and you'll have to inform the family. And she just seemed like it really meant a lot to her for me to do that. So I said yes. So this day I got the call and informed the family. And again, like, my kids were 1 and 3. I didn't explain it to them or tell them anything. Like, they might have seen me upset, but I didn't like say anything about what was going on. That night I was tucking them into bed, and my 3-year-old said, there's a ghost in here with us. So I'm like, what do they look like? And he said, it's a girl, she's old, she has white hair, and she's here to tell you thank you. Now, you cannot tell me that it's a coincidence, and nothing like that has happened again. It's been about 4 years. He's never talked about seeing a ghost or a spirit or anything like that. In fact, like, he doesn't even remember this. Now he's almost 7.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
It's finally time to tell my story. So when I was an undergrad, somewhere around like 2011, 2012, I went to CarMax, bought my first big girl purchase by myself, no co-signer, you know. It was a used car. It was a 2009 Jeep Compass, and I loved that little thing. So I spent all day at the dealership, and it was late at night. I had to drive back to my dorm, so that was like an hour away, right? By the time I get to the free parking lot, it's already dark outside. I reach in the back seat to grab my backpack, and guess what's staring at me? It was a little Asian girl. Scared the shit out of me. I grabbed my stuff so fast, I darted to my dorm room, closed the door, and when I tell you I was huffing and puffing and super scared, because what did I just see? I know I did not see what I know I saw on day one. So the very next day I called my grandmother. This is very important because my grandma is Chinese and Jamaican. Not to mention she's a medium. She sees spirits and she talks to people all the time. So I'm just like, she gotta have something to do with her because those are her people. So I asked my grandma, has anybody in our family lost a little Asian girl like that was like 3 or 4 years old? She says, no, doesn't sound familiar. Why, what's up? So I tell her what I saw in the car, and she says, oh, no, she's there to protect you. It's fine, it's fine. Winter's approaching. I've been walking to work this whole time. Bought a car, hadn't even drove it because I'm scared. Eventually, I talked myself into, okay, just drive during the daytime, maybe talk to her, see if you can get anything out of her. So for a couple months, I tried talking to her, got nothing, no response. She would just stare. She would just sit and look at me. Eventually, I guess I just kind of warmed up to her, like, she's just gonna be here. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is still my car. And anytime I would have people in the car, she would just disappear, like she knew what her role was. Fast forward, and this girl has now been riding in my car for almost 5 years. Still doesn't talk. At this point, I'm in grad school at the Med Center. I'm dirt broke, I'm working multiple jobs, and I'm driving for Uber and Lyft on the side, right? The last time I saw her was when I was getting ready to go out to go drive. That night, I got a ride request to go pick up somebody from the casino. Turns out it was my classmate from the Med Center. So we're chopping it up in the car, right? I come across this intersection. It's a 4-way intersection, and at the red light, there was an officer sitting there just waiting at his red light. I remember just kind of glancing down, making sure that I was going the right speed limit, and boom, I got hit. It was a big black Suburban. The guy was drunk. And he kept driving after he hit my car, and the only reason why he stopped is because he hit a tree. The officer saw everything happen. It was all caught on the dash camera. I'm gonna just be real with you. That night, should have been dead. Okay, he ripped the whole front end of my Jeep off. It was to smithereens. There was nothing. There was like, I can't even explain. Airbags had deployed. I'd never been in a car accident before, so I didn't know airbags were white. I thought I was in heaven. And I remember being so angry because everybody said when you die, you're so peaceful. I was angry. I was a telephone operator. I was working like 2 and 3 jobs. I was putting myself to grad school, and I was miserable. And I was just like, God, this is how you gonna do me? Eventually, I come to it because now I hear the girl in the back seat of my car screaming, Larissa, we gotta get you out. Larissa, we gotta get you out. I was like, oh shit, I'm not dead. Okay. When I stepped out of my car, my shoe was across the street. When I tell you I got hit so bad, my car spun across 3 different lanes. The whole front end of my car was missing. Gone. Smithereen, just smoke. Obviously, the officer runs him down. And then his girlfriend gets out the car. You get off my man. He didn't do nothing to me. You get off my man. And I just remember sitting on the curb like, what just happened? So we start the lawsuit process. Fast forward, about a year later, it's my birthday. Me and my best friend are going to go to the spoken poetry word slam thingamajig. Just because I just wanted to get out the house. You know what I mean? And out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy sitting at a table. And I am so intrigued because I just want to know, what is he doing? He's got like tarot cards. So best friend was like, go talk to him. Like, go get a reading. I said, no. You don't understand. My people are Jamaican. We don't do, I'm not disturbing nothing. Plus, I already know what I know that I don't tell people. So I did this reading with her right by my side because I'm a little nervous. So I sit at this guy's table. He has me hold out my hands. He puts all these little animal bones and trinkets and stuff. And he says, let the pieces fall where they may fall. And he said, by the way, happy birthday. I said, well, how did he know it was my birthday? Oh, I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there. It takes a while to evaluate the pieces. And he goes, so there's a lot here I want to talk to you about. But the first thing I need to ask you is, tell me about your car accident. I said, got hit by a drunk driver like a year ago. Yeah, okay, what? He says, no, tell me what really happened. I never told anybody about this. I never told anybody about this. What do you mean? To the best of my knowledge, I'm trying to remember exactly everything. And I tell him I got hit by a drunk driver. He was going pretty fast. T-boned my car, but it only hit the front end of my car. I don't know how it didn't hit me. And he said, so what about the little girl that's in the car? I said, I'm playing dumb. Why am I playing dumb? He knows this stuff. He clearly does. I don't know this man. I've never met him. So I tell him, yeah, okay, there's a little girl that's been in my car for, a couple of years or whatever. He said, do you know that she turned the wheel for you? I said, what are you talking about? He said she cut the wheel to save your life because she died in that car and she didn't want you to die. He's right. That was the last time I saw her. I asked him, can you give me more information? Who is she? Why was she here? Is she in my family? There was really no other information. She's not related to me at all. She just didn't want to see me die in that car. So during that reading, he did ask me some other questions and stuff, but he told me, you're a medium and I need you to start acting like it. For the sake of not sounding crazy, I've never told anybody else outside of my mom and my grandma and my family that I be seeing shit, but I don't be saying shit. Nothing, it's just normal. But I know that you don't talk about that stuff out loud because it freaks out people. How did he know this? I don't know. He said, you have abilities that can put me out of business, and I need you to really lean into that. Well, he's right. I am a medium, and I'm not that great at it. I'm honestly scared about everything, and I do not trust being in the dark. Side note, I've never had anything evil or wicked happen to me. I've always felt protected. I still feel protected. But if you want to hear another story about how I saved my dad's life by telling him he has cancer, let me know.